So for some reason you don't want to pick up Power of the Elements. Big think emoji. Don't think the 30% of you guys have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you don't miss out on more awesome content. Power of the Elements is our Rise of the Duelist for this year. And you're probably like, no, it's not, Robbie. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh boy. When you look at those OCG data results and you see this deck tearing through the competition there, then you definitely got to take a second and realize, maybe Splight and Tier Elements really are those two big hitting strategies out of this. And then on the sub burner here, you get Exo Sister as well, receiving their 2 power-ups. Now, I know the constant gripe from the community is, what's the point in going and picking up sealed product and things like that? Well, here's a little bit of a fun fact for you. Power sets like this, and a lot of sets in the past, over time, you can pick up a box or two at, some places you can get them for 70, some for 65. Other stores you're going to be paying 90 to 100. It depends on where you're looking, where your resources are, and how much you want to support your LGS, amongst other things. So if you can pick up some boxes long term, and this is my favorite part, hold them. Oh my god. I do a lot of holding sealed product on this channel. We haven't talked a lot about some of the older investments, but for those of you that have been here in the long term, you've definitely seen some of the bigger things we picked up. One of the more recent ones was the Egyptian God Structure decks for, a good couple year hold here. Even if you look back at some of the older structure decks and things as well, they go up in price. All right, you look at the Icebreaker Structure deck, that thing that nobody wanted. All right, everybody was like, oh my god, this set's so bad. If you picked them up and you held them, those Ronin Totens in that deck are now $7+ a piece. It's kind of scary here. So, what's the point of making this video? Well, here's the thing. If you look at such an impactful meta-game changing set like Power of the Elements, and for the people that are like, well, I would rather just, not even touch the set, I guarantee you there is going to be a chunk of your community that when we head into such a game-changing format, and I already know there's going to be the couple comments that are going to push up their glass and be like, no, Robbie, actually the game's not going to change. You're just trying to do this to sell Power of the Elements. No, I'm not. All right, we've already seen a lot of people talking about Power. I've seen a lot of Splight combo videos, if you even call it combo, that they just make these huge, crazy boards. And, yeah, the TCG is a lot more reactive with things like Dark World No More and these board breaker-ass cards, for sure, than, the OCG might be. But once again, you kind of got to ask yourself at this point in time, is that the trend? Well, here's the thing, all right? You might have outs to things, but you're only going to see those outs half of the time. If your opponent's entire game plan is going to be reciprocating and recreating those boards over and over again, statistically, you're only going to be able to see your 6 outs not 100% of the time. That's just how that works. So, sorry to tell you, you might have outs to handle things, but the consistency and things across the table for those 2 decks is really going to be that much more powerful. So, with Power of the Elements, like I said, you're going to have players that are going to take a step back, because when a game releases, this is actually kind of an interesting thing for those of you that are like, I don't want to get Power, I don't want to invest in this. You'll have a lot of players that'll take a step back from the format because they don't want to spend all the money to pick up the newest, best decks. And that is kind of where you run into some issues here for the budget players that, look at this new stuff and they're like, if this stuff is all some sort of crazy high rarity, then they can't pick up anything from it, and they kind of get power crept out. And then if you're already looking like some of these Tier Elements or Shizu decks, where the power ceiling on these decks is even further beyond. That's the thing, if you're creating these decks that have such a crazy high ceiling, then players aren't going to want to play against them either. Then you create 2 issues, all right, which becomes money and then high interaction skill points. So, Yeah, that's the thing. If you thought that budget players didn't want to sit through like crazy turns, they're definitely not going to want to sit through crazy 25-minute interaction turns. That's part of the reason why something like grass is greener won't ever actually come back to the game, because as much as grass seems like it could fundamentally be good for the game, it creates these game states where these turns take literal forever, and that's not a lot of fun for players. I perfectly understand something like that. So what positives do we have here, obviously, for wanting to have power or picking up singles or something with this? Well, the way that things went in the OCG on the first checkpoint, they pretty much neutered Splight. So you basically got a good solid format or two for that. They went ahead and checked some things. They lost Totally Awesome. They lost Halki Fibrex. I'm kind of expecting the TCG will probably lose a Halki Fibrex come the later half of the block, but that's just that. So once you check that, well, guess what? You shift over to the second theme of the set, which is Tier Elements. I honestly think that with the Ishizu stuff, the Tier Elements deck has the highest ceiling of anything I've ever seen in the game. Besides the mirror match just being a toxic just being a giant wasteland of absolute crap to wane through in the mirror. It's not a fun place whatsoever. I mean, you won't have to deal with that until Mavens, but when you look at like the giant power scaling and how things set up in the OCG, Splight by far was the best deck, which meant the Tier Elements got to scrape through until they got the Ishizu stuff, which put them back on the map. So I think like the most interesting thing out of this whole grand scheme of things here is the fact that you have a set that puts two meta decks on the table, but the first meta deck will obviously be the Forerunner till something checks it, and then the second meta deck will pick up. And speaking of, meta decks here, if you're looking at Tier Elements stuff here, and you're kind of like being a little bit wishy-washy with it, the Tier Elements do get more stuff in Dinkwing Blast. So that's one big thing that you should look at here if you're looking at like long-term longevity on this set. When you're getting even better support in the next core set versus, Splight not really getting much power-ups because they already got like all of the negates and things that they could ever want presented to them on the table here. Well, shucky darn, it kind of creates a very interesting thing. So, all things considered here, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going forward here, Darkwing Blast being like the next subset for things is not going to be anywhere near as good as Power. So I don't know what else to tell you guys, man. I think players that are looking at this set going, I don't really want to deal with this set, I don't really want to deal with the game, that's fine. You can take a step back, all right? Power creep and progression in the game is natural at this point in time. I understand that a lot of players will get discouraged with these massively crazy combos. It happens all the time. It is the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's just how things work at this point. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think you're probably going to be taking more than a couple of months off. At the rate we're going, I pretty much think that we're going to see Splight and Tier Elements probably through the later beginning half of next year, because especially if we get the Ishizu cards at this early stage here, and they don't go after Tier Elements at all, that just means that you're going to have even crazier dumb interactions, and that's not really something that I think players are going to want to deal with at the end of it. So you might be seeing a good 6 months off. And I don't wish that upon anybody. That's actually massively discouraging. So, hey, if you want to get on the meta train and you want to lock in, I don't think you're going to see reprints for the Tier Element stuff or the Splight stuff, actually, until Megatins 2023, which pretty much will solidify any sort of investment for a 6-month time. And you know what? If you pick up a case, you pull everything straight out of that case, you are good to go for so long. All right, you know what? I'll take that. That seems good to me. So, don't be stupid. Look at the stuff that's going on. If you're planning on playing competitively, you have my warning that what's coming down the pipeline here isn't going to be really fun. I think a lot of players are going to be really discouraged going forward here, but you know what? in terms of making money, entry packs for events are going to be very, very nice, depending on how that stuff is going to go. So, what do you think about picking up Power of the Elements? Please, of course, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. And, of course, I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.